If you really think about it, you are probably holding a device in your hand right now. Or, well, maybe it's sitting in your pocket.
Right. Yeah.
But that little device can instantly access, the sum total of human knowledge. It's wild.
It really is.
You can order groceries to your front door in, a matter of minutes. And you likely live in a society built on this big promise of limitless personal liberty.
That's the narrative anyway.
Exactly. So our mission today is to figure out why, statistically speaking, you probably feel more stressed, more overworked, and honestly, more trapped than a peasant living in the Middle Ages.
Which is a pretty jarring comparison when you first hear it.
It really is. But today on this deep dive, we are looking under the hood of modern society to figure out why our modern freedom so often feels like, an incredibly well-designed illusion.
Yeah, and to do that, we're digging into this really fascinating piece from the blog called Knowledge is King.
Oh, yeah, it's a great read.
Yeah, it's an article by Mark Wells, and it's titled The Ancient Engine, Why Modern Freedom Feels Like an Illusion.
That title just grabs you.
Right. And the core premise, it basically forces us to confront this major blind spot in how we view progress.
Basically, the idea that we are the freest generation in history.
Exactly. We assume that just because we traded horses for hypercars and town criers for global internet networks, that the fundamental rules of human power and control must have evolved too.
But they haven't.
No, not really. We completely confuse technological advancement with systemic advancement.
Right, and the source makes this brutal distinction between the tools a society uses and the philosophy that actually governs it. Because on the surface, our daily lives look like a literal sci-fi utopia, right? I mean, we have these complex global democracies, instant communication.
All the flashy stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the core forces driving everything, like resource distribution, human labor, authority, the author argues those forces are raw, ancient, and entirely unchanged.
Yeah, they're just wrapped in this slick, modern language of freedom, just to make them easier for us to swallow.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because before we can really understand the illusion, we have to look under the hood of modern society.
Right.
It's basically like, okay, imagine buying a brand new hypercar. It's got all the digital bells and whistles, seamless touchscreens, biometric security, whatever.
Oh, sure, that works.
Yeah, but then you pop the hood and you find a rusty, steam-powered engine from the 1800s doing all the actual mechanical work.
That is honestly the perfect way to look at it.
Okay.
Because if we connect this to the bigger picture, history shows us that lies always have an expiration date.
Totally.
To understand why the system feels so rigged to the everyday worker, the peasants of the past, we have to look at how that ancient engine actually functions.
And the author breaks this down into two very specific philosophical gears that grind people down.
Yeah, the two gears that make the whole thing turn.
Let's start with the first one. Moving from the overall engine to the art of the lie. The text calls this the Machiavellian gear.
Right, so here we're talking about the philosophical framework laid out by Niccolo Machiavelli in the 1500s, specifically in his famous handbook for rulers, The Prince.
Ah, right, The Prince.
And the core enduring lesson from that text is that a ruler doesn't actually need to possess virtue.
Wait, meaning they don't need to actually be good people.
Exactly. They do not need to be inherently good or honest or kind. They only need to master the appearance of those qualities.
So it's all about optics.
100%. Power preserves itself entirely through optics.
Okay, but let me push back slightly to deepen this a bit.
Sure, go for it.
Machiavelli wrote a political handbook for literal 16th century monarchs, like kings with absolute power.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for our daily choices now? How does a 500-year-old playbook for kings apply to a modern democratic system? I mean, we actually go to the ballot box and vote,
Well, the mechanism of the optics had to evolve, right?
Right.
But the goal remained identical.
Okay.
Think about it. In ancient times, the PR strategy was incredibly simple. It was just divine right.
Oh, like God chose me.
Exactly. A king would just claim, the universe or God placed me on this throne, so you cannot overthrow me.
Simple but effective. For a while, anyway.
Right. But in a modern secular democracy, divine right obviously no longer works. So the optics require a much more sophisticated upgrade.
Okay, so what does that upgrade look like today? Are we saying every modern debate is totally manufactured?
Not that the issues aren't real, but institutions today utilize, like intense public relations, media spin, algorithmic curation, and manufactured debates to achieve the exact same result as divine right.
Wow.
The goal of this Machiavellian gear is no longer to force you into submission at the point of a sword. The goal is to frame the choices available to you.
Framing the choices, that is so interesting because it clarifies how the illusion of choice keeps people feeling in control when they really aren't.
Exactly.
It's kind of like giving someone a menu and letting them agonize for what to eat so they feel completely empowered by their decision.
Right.
But the whole time, you're hiding the fact that you own the restaurant, you source the ingredients, and you profit literally no matter what they order.
That is exactly it. The passions people feel about modern issues are entirely real.
Yeah, people care deeply.
Of course. And the localized impacts of those debates on human lives are very real. But the overarching framework of the debate is constructed.
So no matter who wins the debate on the menu, the foundation of the restaurant remains completely untouched.
Precisely. This illusion of choice is the ultimate tool of control, because it allows people to feel the emotional satisfaction of participating in a system, while the fundamental structures, like who owns the capital, who sets foreign policy, who controls the debt, all of that remains totally insulated from the outcome of any given election.
Okay, so that first gear controls how we perceive our rulers, basically. It secures the top with this illusion of choice.
Yes, exactly.
But to truly prevent a revolt, the author says you also have to break solidarity at the bottom.
Right, you can't have people teaming up.
Exactly. You have to pit people against each other so they never look up. And the source argues this is where the second part of the machinery kicks in, the Darwinian gear.
Ah, yes, the Darwinian gear.
Which is based on Charles Darwin's concept of survival of the fittest, right?
Yeah.
In the natural world.
Exactly. Organisms compete for limited resources. The adaptable survive and the weak perish. It's just a biological reality of the jungle.
Right.
But what the text explores is what happens when you take that biological reality and artificially apply it to modern human society.
And what happens?
You end up masking a brutal, unforgiving jungle under this noble-sounding guise of pure liberty.
Oh, wow. Here's where it gets really interesting then, because it's like taking a friendly neighborhood watch program
Wow.
and secretly turning it into a Hunger Games style corporate arena.
That's a great analogy.
But you're telling everyone it's just free enterprise.
Yes, a society lacking safety nets ceases to be a human community. It transforms into a corporate arena.
Just nonstop competition.
Nonstop. And it's for basic survival. Let's look at how this manifests right now in, say, the modern gig economy.
Okay, yeah.
You have a worker driving their own car, paying for their own gas, absorbing all the depreciation and risk on their vehicle.
While some algorithm dictates their minute-by-minute wages based on demand.
Right. But the corporate framing tells this worker that they are a small business owner enjoying the ultimate freedom of being their own boss.
When in reality, all the structural risk has just been completely offloaded onto them. Like if they get sick and can't drive, they just don't eat.
Exactly. And the system tells them that failure is localized entirely to them.
Yeah, it's always their fault.
Right. The messaging is you didn't get sick because you are overworked in a stressful environment. You got sick because you didn't buy the right premium health supplement.
That is so true. Or like, you aren't poor because wages have stagnated against inflation for decades. You're poor because you didn't hustle hard enough on your side gig.
That intense localization of blame is just incredibly effective.
It keeps everyone exhausted.
Totally. The Machiavellian gear keeps you from questioning the rulers by giving you a fake menu, and the Darwinian gear keeps you locked in desperate competition with your peers for the scraps.
So you're so intensely focused on surviving the arena, on proving your worth in this relentless economic jungle,
That you physically do not have the time, the energy, or the solidarity to look up and examine the people operating the gears.
Right. But this brings up a really natural question. If the engine is this brutal and the odds are this heavily stacked against the average person, why don't people rebel?
It's the ultimate question.
Because historically, when people are squeezed this hard, they revolt. But the author's answer to why we haven't is distraction.
Yes, a massive modernization of an ancient strategy.
Right, the old Roman strategy of bread and circuses.
Exactly. The Roman Empire understood that as long as you keep the populace fed with cheap grain and sufficiently distracted by gladiators fighting in the Colosseum, they are not going to march on the Senate.
Keep their stomachs full enough and their eyes glued to the spectacle.
Right. The physical necessities are barely met, but the psychological need for drama is just completely overwhelmed.
And the text points out that today's circuses are digital.
Completely digital. The system operates by stripping away our identity as citizens with civic duties and replacing it entirely with an identity as consumers.
We are just flooded 24/7 with short-term gratification, like endless on-demand entertainment, one-click shopping.
The ability to summon a meal to our couch without ever speaking to a human being.
Yes, but the source points out that the most potent digital gladiator match of all is what the author calls the outrage economy on social media.
Oh, absolutely. And the outrage economy is not some accident of human nature. It is a meticulously engineered product.
Wait, engineered how?
Well, when you engage in a furious online argument, the algorithm hosting that argument is not trying to help you find the truth.
Right, it doesn't care about the facts.
Exactly, nor does it care about your political stance. The algorithm just recognizes a biological fact. Anger keeps human eyes glued to a screen significantly longer than joy or contentment.
Because of the adrenaline.
Yes, it actively feeds you opposing inflammatory viewpoints to spike your adrenaline and cortisol levels. It literally traps you in a state of perpetual fight or flight, ensuring you stick around long enough to view more advertisements.
So the outrage itself is the product being monetized.
Exactly. You are the product.
Think about your own phone habits, honestly. Like, how often do you open an app just to check a message, and 20 minutes later you find your heart rate elevated because you're deeply emotionally invested in a vicious argument
Between complete strangers.
between complete strangers about a topic that doesn't actually impact your daily life at all? You feel drained by this outrage economy before you even have a chance to think about the bigger picture.
And that exhaustion is the core feature of the distraction mechanism.
It drains your battery before you step out the door.
Exactly. By keeping our focus perpetually fixed on these immediate low-level desires and manufactured conflicts, the system actively drains the mental and emotional bandwidth required to ask bigger questions.
Because you simply cannot contemplate systemic truth or structural fairness or the mechanics of this ancient engine.
When your brain is constantly managing a manufactured digital state of emergency.
It's cognitive overload by design. Keep the peasants fighting each other in the comment sections so they don't notice the architecture of the platform itself.
Precisely.
But the author introduces a really critical turning point here. If the entire system is dependent on this delicate balance of Machiavellian deceit, Darwinian stress, and digital distraction, can it actually sustain itself indefinitely?
And the author argues, no, it cannot.
Because of something called the information tax. Let's talk about that, because this seems huge.
The information tax is arguably one of the most profound structural critiques in the source material.
Yeah.
Because history repeatedly demonstrates that deceit is a highly inefficient, terrible long-term strategy for maintaining power.
Why is that?
Well, maintaining a core unfairness requires a narrative to justify it. You have to tell a story about why the suffering is necessary.
But reality eventually pushes back against that narrative.
A waste.
Like, if a corporation secretly dumps toxic waste into a town's water supply, they first have to lie and say the water is safe.
Right.
But when people start getting sick, that first lie isn't enough anymore. Now they have to pay corrupt scientists to publish fake studies.
Then they have to hire PR firms to discredit the local doctors who are speaking out.
Exactly. They have to bribe regulators to look the other way. The lie just keeps growing.
And every single layer of deception requires exponentially more energy, more capital, and more propaganda to maintain than the layer before it.
Oh, wow.
That compounding cost is the information tax.
Yeah.
And when you apply that to an entire civilization's economic and social narrative, the cost becomes astronomical.
Eventually, this architecture of lies just becomes way too top-heavy.
Exactly. The resources required just to maintain the illusion begin to exceed the resources the system actually produces.
Right.
And the foundation collapses under its own weight.
And you can kind of see that strain happening right now. The text highlights this massive, irreconcilable gap between our lived reality and the shiny media narrative.
Oh, for sure.
Every day people are struggling. You read the headlines and they say, you know, the stock market is hitting record highs. Technology is connecting us closer than ever.
We're living in an era of unprecedented prosperity.
Right. But then you look at your own life. You are working longer hours. Groceries cost twice as much. Housing feels unattainable.
And you feel more isolated from your neighbors than ever before.
Exactly. The narrative completely contradicts the physical reality of just waking up in the morning.
And what's fascinating here is that the author centers human intuition as the catalyst for systemic collapse.
Intuition, not like academic theory.
Right. The average person might not have an advanced degree in political science.
Yeah.
They might not use terms like Machiavellian framework or information tax,
Yeah, that's just academic jargon.
but they possess an undeniable visceral intuition. They feel the mechanics of the engine grinding against them. They feel the unfairness in their bones.
Average people might not have the vocabulary to explain their exploitation, but they feel it in their hearts. The human heart hasn't changed any more than the ancient engine has.
That's a great point.
The top of the hierarchy still possesses that ancient capacity for greed, which built this machine in the first place. But the bottom of the hierarchy still possesses a quiet, incredibly stubborn hunger for genuine justice.
And you can distract people with digital circuses for a long time, but you cannot permanently erase their intuition.
Right. When a system stops serving humanity, the mask will fall.
Absolutely. When the contradiction between the algorithm's shiny promises and the daily struggle to survive becomes too massive to ignore, that innate hunger for justice wakes up.
The societal gaslighting simply stops working.
The information tax defaults. History makes a very clear promise on this point. When a system entirely stops serving the humanity it governs and exists solely to perpetuate its own power, the mask eventually falls.
So, to kind of summarize our deep dive today, the world around us looks incredibly advanced. It looks like the future we were promised.
It definitely looks the part.
But under the hood, it's driven by an ancient engine of Machiavellian optics and Darwinian competition. The system thrives on keeping us distracted by endless digital arguments.
The bread and circuses.
Right, while convincing us that the intense daily struggle to just pay our bills is entirely our own fault.
It relies on those optics to hide the true nature of power.
Exactly. But ultimately, the information tax of maintaining these illusions becomes too high. Human intuition and that demand for something real and just eventually breaks through the noise.
It really is a powerful framework that fundamentally shifts how you view your daily interactions.
Completely.
And, Mark Wells, the author of this piece, has actually written a few other articles on that site that build on these exact concepts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, two titles that stand out are Feelies, How Your Emotions Became Their Remote Control, and The Hijacked Mind.
Those are intense titles.
Right. But they perfectly capture the challenge this leaves you with, because the entire engine relies on your unexamined reactions.
So it's something to really mull over.
Absolutely. The next time you find yourself getting furious at a viral debate on your feed or feeling a deep sense of inadequacy because you aren't winning in the hustle culture arena, ask yourself a question.
What's the question?
Is this outrage truly your own? Or is it just the ancient engine using your emotions as a remote control, keeping you distracted from looking at the real structure of the house?
Wow. Are you driving the car, or is the 1800s steam engine driving you? That is a perfect final thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Understanding the mechanics of the engine is the only way we ever learn to actually take the wheel. So keep looking under the hood, keep questioning the world around you, and we will catch you on the next one.